I want to expand on some of the shortcuts we talked about earlier, like the conversion of the selection tool into the type tool. So first of all, before you even like double click or anything like that to get inside your type, just know that when you go from the selection tool or the direct selection tool to the type tool, you can get back and forth using the command key and probably the control key on a PC. So for example, I have the direct selection tool selected right now. Now I select the type tool, and so you see there's the type tool. If I hold down the command key, you can see that it goes back to the selection tool. So that can be pretty handy when you have to, say move things around. Hold down the command key, move that around, release the command key, I'm back to the text tool. But if you just had either one of these tools, and let's say you just move this, it'll automatically become the text tool when you click inside. So if I'm all the way out, it's going to take probably 2 clicks for me to get the cursor in here. And I believe the first one selects this and the second one puts a cursor in. So there was 2 clicks, and now you can see my cursor is right here between the Y and the P. Now that it is the text tool, it should just take 1 click anywhere to put the cursor in. If I want to select a whole word, I can now double click. And just to kind of get the point across here, if I have no selection and I want to get a word, it's probably going to take me 3 quick clicks. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, see, it's pretty touchy. I may have done it 4 times, but you'll get the feel for it. But the main thing is once you already have the text tool, it's pretty easy. 1 click gets you in between, or just gets you in a word or between words or whatever. 2 clicks gets the whole word. 3 clicks gets the whole, maybe it is 4 clicks, gets the whole entire area, or I should say paragraph. And to select every bit of text that is in your text area, once you have a selection, whether it's a big selection or a small selection, you just do Command A and that will select everything. Now I want to talk about converting text to a shape, or what's called creating outlines. I'm going to first just do it, and then I'm going to tell you about the pros and cons of it. So I'm going to move this over here. I'll hold down the Option key, click drag to make a copy of it. The reason that you would do this, one of the reasons, is if you go to work on another computer and it doesn't have, or you don't know if it's going to have this same font that you're working with, and you don't want to get there, open it up, and nothing looks the same because maybe you're working on a logo and you've already got all the type figured out. So you just select the text, whether it's one single letter or a whole entire area of text, and you go up to the type tool or the type menu and you go create outlines. Now notice the difference in the way it's selected. You no longer get the baseline. Also, and I'm going to close this. Also notice over here we get all the type options. We see what the font face is. We click over here and now we get the same options that we would for just a basic shape, because that's all this is now, is just shapes. So there's one of the cons right away, is if there's a misspelling over here that you don't notice until you're on the new computer, tough luck. You can't change it. It's just shapes. You can't kern. You can't change the size using the menu. Tracking is gone. All of the stuff that is for text is now gone. Is there a better way to do it? Yes, maybe. Depends if you're going from like computers. So there is another option that you can do, and that is you go to File and you go to Package. And if you just follow the prompts when you do that, you will create a folder on your computer that contains the Illustrator document that you're working on, and it will also, if you have any images, it will place the images in that folder, and it will put the fonts in that folder. Now the problem could be there if you're going from a PC to a Mac or a new computer to an old computer, that the fonts may not load up on the other computer. So usually what I do in that situation is I will make a copy of every single thing. And by every single thing, I mean, let's say, for example, this was the artboard that I was working on. What I would do is grab the artboard tool, and I would make sure that this option over here, move artwork with artboard, is checked. And then I would just click and drag, hold down the option key, release the mouse, release the option key. Now I have a copy of this, and I would write outlined over the top of this so that I knew in the future that this board is indeed outlined. Then I would select all of the text, go up to type, and go to create outlines. Where are you now? There we go. Create outlines, and now there is not a single bit of real text on this artboard. And then I would do the package as well, and I would take whatever option works best for me on that new computer. Something I want to clarify: earlier I said if you just selected a letter. That's not exactly true. If I just swipe across here and I go up to type create outlines, you can see that it's grayed out. So you can't make a selection by clicking or even triple clicking inside of here. You actually have to take your selection tool and select the whole thing. Now, if you did want to make a modification to just one letter, you would first outline the text like this one is. It right off the bat automatically groups everything together. So if you try to click on just one, you can't get it. But if you now, with it all selected, go up to Object and you go to Ungroup, now if I click away and click on just one letter, I can get that letter. And another area where this could be helpful is if you needed to do like a slight modification of text for a logo or something like that. So let me show you what I mean by that. We said you never want to stretch or squish text, but sometimes there's a good reason why you might want to elongate, for example, a stroke on a text. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go to type, create outlines, and then right from there we're going to go to Object, Ungroup. Now let's just pretend that this was the name of a company and there was a little tagline, say, underneath the name of the company, and it just, no matter what we did, we just felt like it wouldn't nest in there properly. So we can grab now the direct selection tool, grab this path on the bottom. We don't want to grab an anchor, we just want the entire path. So I'm going to zoom in even further. Come back here and path, and now if I click and drag, I can move this out. If I hold down the shift key, I can constrain it to just down, and maybe that could work. And just to show you that again, I'm going to go right here. I don't want to click on the anchor, because if I click on the anchor, I could do something like that. I just want to be on the path, click straight down, hold the shift key down if I want to go straight down. Let me just show you one more special case here. If you wanted to move the dot of the eye away, you notice when you select just the dot, both of them select, so you would think you'd be able to go to Object and Ungroup, but it's not available. That's what's known as a compound path. If you just needed to erase it or something like that, you could take the direct selection tool, just click on it. Don't make a liar out of me. Let me see if I click and drag. Yeah, I could delete it that way by making a distinct selection of it. But if I just wanted to move it, what I'd have to do is select and then go to Object and go Compound Path Release. Now if I click away, click on the dot, I can move that wherever I want. Another thing that's worth noting about creating outlines from your text, and here's a great example, is this whole document is text. This whole document is just shapes. This uses up a lot a lot more memory, because this is just like every one of these is its own little entity, every little character. Where here you're drawing from a, a file of fonts. So keep that in mind. It's pretty unlikely in a professional environment that you would ever take like a book or even a pamphlet and outline the whole thing to bring it to your printer. You would most likely, well, there's a lot of different things you would do. The package option is one, but if you're using Adobe fonts, you pretty much know that your printer is going to have access to all those. I'm going to talk about Adobe fonts in just a bit. I'm going to end this series of videos out with some things that I think will make you a better designer. So I'm going to take the long way of answering this kind of question that came up before about the proper use of small caps. Now, hopefully you can see right off the bat, the closer we get to this, that only this one feels right. It has the right thick to thin ratio. This just feels wrong. It feels like these are too light to be next to this. Although they're from the same font family, it's just not quite there. This one's even worse. In fact, the kerning needs to be adjusted there. Now, don't feel bad if you can't see this right away. If this is your first year or two as a graphic designer, just trust me, the more that you work with good fonts, the better your sensitivity will become. So don't follow that trend of going to a website like DaFont and getting free fonts. Most of the time, free fonts are worth exactly what you paid for them. If you want a great list of fonts to start with, I will show you how to get a list for free. Go to Amazon, search out this book here, Typographic Specimen, The Great Typefaces, and let's see, is there more than one? What we're looking for, I think we'll get it if we just click here. We're looking for that little look inside icon. Ah, there we go, right here. So I had to type on it to get to the page that the book was displayed on, and then when I click look inside, what we want to do is just scroll down till we get to the table of contents, which is those typefaces. So there's 28 of them. Some of them you'll recognize. Like, for example, you probably wouldn't want to use Times New Roman over and over again. But get to know some of these fonts, and then you'll start to develop appreciation for fonts that are well designed. If you use bad fonts, overused fonts like Impact and Papyrus, what that says to someone in the business when they look at your work, and this is an unfortunate way to say it, but it looks like amateur struggling for effect. And Rob Carter actually says that in one of his books. So what do? You make your design great and you use the typography in a supporting role. If the type needs to come forward and be interesting, still use a great classic font, and then just, you know, distress it in some way, but keep the integrity of the font. Like, so for example, you could incorporate texture into the font, and I have some videos about that. If it's not obvious where those are, just talk to me in class. Now, back in Illustrator, the reason this font looks so much better is this is actually two fonts in reality put together. This right here is the normal version of this font, and this right here is the small cap version of this font. These two that don't look so good, this part of the word is that thing that I said you want to avoid, and that is faux small cap. So it's the computer trying to fake it, and that will not work if you want to work in this business and have people look at your portfolio and say, wow, this person really knows what they're doing. Now, this particular font here is not available in the regular fonts that just come with the program. And if you're working in the school, typically we don't have access to Adobe's fonts, but I'm going to talk about it real quick, because if you do have your own paid subscription to the plan, and once you get good at recognizing a good font, you may want to start to learn these. So a quick way to do this right inside of the program is when you have a word that you are wanting to put a new font on, you can go down to the drop down menu here and if you click Find More, it will activate Adobe's fonts. Well, it won't activate them. It'll bring you to a list of the fonts, and then you click this little cloud icon next to the font you want, and it'll make it available on your computer. And the reason that you do it that way is there's hundreds, if not thousands, especially between the variations of these fonts. And if you had them all activated, it would take forever, I think, even just to load up the program, but forever to search through them. And never be afraid to Google this stuff and look for a good reputable site. Like if you go right to Adobe's site, Adobe Fonts, Explore Unlimited Fonts. So this is going to take me right to Adobe, and then if I click Get Started, it's going to tell me how to activate the fonts. And if I activate them using this method, they'll be available across multiple programs, like if I'm working in Illustrator and InDesign and even Photoshop, which is not made for setting type, but every now and then you'll need a little bit of type in Photoshop. And if that was not enough, there's also a new type of font available. I'm going to tell you for now to avoid it, but I just want you to see it in case you hear about it from someone else and they tell you that it's the way to go. There is, when you go down to your choice of fonts here, I think it's up for, yeah, they're called variable fonts. And they're okay. I just don't think that they're quite there yet for professional use for graphic designers. And let me kind of show you why, and I'll leave it up to you to read through. But basically what it is this font, instead of having a bold and an italic, has slider controls that let you adjust all that on the fly. So you can have hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of combinations from just one font using these sliders. And I'm sure they'll get better and better, and you may want to research some articles like the pros and cons of variable fonts. And if you even just look at an image of some of the fonts and you have a sensitive eye, you'll notice that some of these just don't quite feel right. In the middle, they're quite a bit stronger and go together well, but when you get on the outskirts, you start to see that there are some problems with white space and so on. And so really you want to avoid using garage fonts, free fonts, anything that'll make you look like a rookie. You definitely want to avoid squishing your fonts. You want to avoid the overuse of type inside of areas other than a rectangle. If you have a great concept for type in a circle, then look into it. If you have a great concept for type on a path, then yeah. You just don't want to overuse these type of things in your project. The same with drop shadows, gradients. Anytime your portfolio is built with products that's the only way that you get them to pop out, it generally looks like an amateuristic portfolio. You can take typography to a whole nother level. It becomes very campy, if you will, and if you're kind of a nerdy person, you might get a big kick out of this. Now, one thing, try to avoid becoming a nasty type snob. A type snob is good, but if you act arrogant about it, once you get good about it, it can be a big turnoff to people. But to get you there, look up College Humor and some of their skits about typefaces, and you'll see how seriously people take their fonts by making fun of people who use the wrong font. So they give personality to fonts, and you'll see the ones that are generally considered no-nos, like Impact, Papyrus, and Comic Book Sans, they make fun of. There was also something that was unbelievably campy that was even on SNL, and let me just see if I spelled this right by plugging it into Google. So find the skit that Ryan Gosling did on SNL. This I didn't even realize, it's been so long since this first came out, that the creator of Papyrus has responded. He probably didn't like getting made fun of. But this is how far this stuff can go. So there you go. Take typography and your career with it in graphic design as far as you want to.